Hey, this is Mark at Time Inc. Food Studios. Fall is right around the corner, and one of my favorite things to cook when the weather starts cooling off is risotto. A lot of people are intimidated by it. They think it takes too long. They don't know how to approach it, but it's a really easy, very few elements involved recipe that you can do a host of things with. So we're going to start off by having our mise en place ready to go. We have some garlic and onion chopped up and some butter. You want to start off with a little bit more fat than you would just cook this in, because you really want the fat to be able to coat the rice once you add that. So this pan on medium, there's a debate even within this kitchen about what type of pan to use when making risotto. My cameraman / chef friend here thinks that you should use a higher sided pot, which would allow the moisture to evaporate less quickly and kind of allow that rice to absorb more flavor. I, however, think that you should start with a wider pan because it can allow you to really stir a little bit better and get around the edges. So you let your butter melt. We're on medium-low heat because we don't want any color on the onions and garlic. I know a lot of things you want color on your vegetables to kind of create the aromatic level of flavor, but on this you want it to still have that sweetness from the onion and garlic, but you don't want to see those specks of color within the risotto. You want it to be very clean and very uniform, and that way whatever you add to it, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's red onion, whether it's herbs, whatever that may be, that provides the pop of color and kind of textural difference as you're looking at it. There's some noise in there. So we've added the onions and garlic. We have very minimal sizzle going on. Again, we want to cook this on medium low to not get any color. Another helpful hint when you don't want to get color on a vegetable is to add salt at the beginning. What this does is it draws out moisture, and where there's moisture, it can't caramelize. So, on the contrary, if I'm caramelizing onions or any other vegetable, I want to wait until towards the end to salt those, so all the natural sugars come out before the water and you get that really nice caramelization. So we're going to saute this for probably about 10 minutes until they really start to turn translucent around the edges and break down, and at that point we'll add our rice and really get it nice and coated in the oil and start to toast before we add any liquids. As you can see, the onions are really nice and translucent. There aren't any brown bits anywhere. The aroma, if you were present in this kitchen, is amazing. The butter, the onions, and the garlic. You can still see that there's some nice fat in the pan as well, so we're going to go in with the rice. Now this is arborio rice. You can use carnaroli rice, is another type of short grain rice you can use, and believe it or not, if you rinse it off, you can even use sushi rice to make risotto. I know that sounds a little sacrilegious, but it is possible. There are also some nice American heirloom varieties that have come back in the past 5-10 years. Carolina Gold in particular, kind of made famous by Sean Brock, that you can use, makes a lovely risotto. So what we've done is we've tossed the rice with the oil. You can kind of see it. Now we turn the heat up just a little bit, so now we're more along the lines of medium high, and we're gonna kind of let the starches on the outside of the rice begin to toast. And this is one of those things where you're gonna smell it more than you're gonna see it. You're gonna see the outside of the rice kernels begin to become a little bit translucent, and you're gonna look for, I guess you're gonna smell for rather, a buttery kind of popcorn aroma. So you're going to see a little bit forming, a little fine forming on the bottom even from those starches that are coming off the rice. It doesn't take long, so you're looking maybe 2 to 3 minutes, stirring, kind of flattening back out, starting to get that nice aroma. You're going to give it a chance, all the rice a chance to hit the bottom of the pan, so that's why you're already kind of agitating it. I'm going to talk a little bit more later, but the reason why you're using a wooden spoon right here is because you're pushing the rice around instead of really cutting through it or crushing it. The rice is really nice and toasted. You can see at this point you do have a little bit of color, but it's kind of uniform. It's it's not the vegetables. So you're not going to see that popping, the color popping out as you're cooking later on. So the rule that I use is called 3 covers. So you use a lot of alcohol in the first to where it's just covered. And I use white wine depending on, I use wine regardless, more often than not, but I use white wine if I'm going with something a little lighter, chicken, even fish, pork maybe, or maybe a lighter vegetable risotto. Now if I'm going on the heavier end, beef, lamb, some darker, maybe dark meat, or something like mushroom, I'm going to use red wine. But it really comes through color-wise, so you have to be really conscious of that. The same thing goes for the stock, light stock as opposed to dark stock. So with the cover rule, so I've done 1 cover, and you let the liquid cook out until, what's the way somebody put it to me was where you have the Red Sea effect, where you can drag your spoon through the rice and the rice doesn't come back on itself. So we're close to the end of our first cover. You can already see creaminess starting to develop just from the starches being agitated. You want to stir pretty frequently. It doesn't have to be constant, but that's what is needed for the starches to really get agitated in the rice. So you can see that I can go through this now, and it pretty much doesn't come back together. Maybe a little bit, but you don't want it to be completely dry when you add your next layer. You kind of level it back out. We have some chicken stock. A trick to using your stock is you want it to be warm. You don't want cold liquid to go in this pan because it's going to slow down the cooking process. So that's about another cover right there. You can see we already have movement beginning again because, again, you want to go in with warm stock. So give it a little bit of stir, and then that is cover number 2. So you can see we've really started developing some nice creaminess. It's actually not much past this point, but if you were going to pick this up, maybe in a restaurant or for a party, that you would take it off and kind of use that last final step. But we're gonna serve this immediately following. So again, we've got our nice little Red Sea, not coming all the way back together, staying apart. We're gonna add the final cover number 3. I'm tempted to just throw the rest in there. There's not that much left. So I'm going to start stirring again. At this point, you kind of need to be careful and stir even a little bit more frequently and keep your eye on the bottom of the pan because those starches at this point have really released, and that rice is going to have a tendency, even if there's liquid in the pan, to want to stick to the bottom if you're not moving it around. So we're going to cook it for another probably about 10 minutes, hopefully a little less. We want it to be really nice and creamy and have just the slightest bit of moisture left when we serve it. So we'll add a little cheese maybe at the end, maybe a touch of butter, salt and pepper, a splash of probably sherry vinegar, and then we'll serve it up. So we're taking this risotto off the heat. It went probably, after I added the wine, about 25 minutes. So to finish it, all we're going to do is we're going to give a splash of sherry vinegar, probably about a teaspoon. We're going to add some butter, some Parmesan, some fresh thyme, and a little bit more salt and pepper. Stir all this in. Let butter really melt. You see how creamy it is. It smells amazing. A little splash of sherry and the Parmesan melting is really, really nice. And take our bowl. It's not the best serving utensil, I'll wipe that off, don't worry. And garnish. A little bit more fresh thyme.